the Wolfman Grim Reaper coming to you, back at you with another video. And in this video, I felt like going ahead and not only come back at you with another video, but also coming back at you with another explanation video and explaining things from The Office. I love The Office. I have watched many and numerous episodes of The Office. I may not watch it entirely, but I've skimmed over a good few episodes here and there. And I felt like explaining my top 5 jokes out of The Office and why these jokes are funny and why I like these jokes. And I'm also going to go ahead and try to mention various jokes across multiple dynamics of Office jokes to watch while you eat, Office jokes that get more and more expensive as they go on, Jim convincing Dwight, and just the good old-fashioned desk pranks of Jim versus Dwight and the prank war with Jim Halpert versus Dwight Schrute. Also note, I do get Jim and Dwight mixed up, just as a side note, because I don't know why. I just do, but it happens. But anyway, also, apology in advance. If your favorite jokes did not make the cut or did not make the list, that is because I didn't know these jokes. Or I just did not know these jokes, or maybe I know these jokes and I just don't really feel like talking about them or mentioning them. I may mention them in another video and maybe at the same time make another top 5 list and make a top 5 countdown of the 5 jokes out of The Office, a top 5 countdown of my 5 favorite jokes, and also even at the same time do another video called Every Major Office Joke Explained and talk about why these jokes were funny. But anyway, when it comes to my favorite Office jokes, my number 1 all-time favorite Office joke, that is a tough one because there are just so many darn good ones. Just like if I was in a Slayer beanie cap and people ask me what my favorite Slayer song, whilst I was wearing a Slayer beanie cap, I would reply with, too many darn good ones, because there are just too many darn good Slayer songs like there are too many darn good Office jokes. So if Slayer has too many darn good songs, well, then that means The Office has too many darn good jokes. I would do another video of my top 5 Slayer songs, as well as for The Office, my top 5 The Office jokes. And anyway, I'm going to go ahead and be doing a top 5 countdown of 5 jokes out of The Office, count them down to each one, and say that one. Also, honorable mentions in advance. I'm going to go ahead and give, this joke was pretty funny, these jokes. One of them was pretty funny. It was Jim impersonating Dwight is one joke I will mention as honorable mention. That and the time he planted a red wire that was 500 feet long on Dwight. Jim planted a 500-foot wire and impersonated Dwight. I will mention those jokes as honorable mentions. I don't really feel like putting them on the top 5 list, but they are honorable mentions, just to let you know. And then again, apology in advance. If your favorite jokes don't make it, that's because I didn't know the jokes, or I didn't know the joke, or I knew the jokes but just didn't feel like mentioning them. Also, then again, and I will repeat myself, be sure to comment down below what your favorite Office jokes are, and maybe make your top 5 Office jokes, and maybe even at the same time, I'm mention your top 5 Office jokes, and I will check them out. And I will also, but right now, on to my top 5 Office jokes. So number 5 is oldie but goodie. This one, I got to pay rent to this one. But the other jokes, they live in my head rent-free. No need to pay the rent on them. But this one, I got to pay a rent on it. And sometimes buy beer or pay the rent for this one. And that is the stapler and Jell-O. Jim has always pranked Dwight with his stapler, his desk, or just trying to convince them on some kind of thing happening, some kind of thing going on, some kind of thing occurring, just whatever it was, he tried to convince them to one thing to another. And this one is one of the object or desk pranks. This one is one of those. And that is the stapler and the Jell-O. The stapler and the Jell-O prank was pretty funny. And the fact that Dwight had to come apart and know if I say a lot of court terms or law and judicial terms like guilty, not guilty, no contest plea, verdict, everything like that. I just say that because it sounds cool and that's the best way to describe things. But anyway, Jim was eating Jell-O and he was making a lot of dispute as to whether or not he had pranked Dwight, and then just ended up entering a no contest plea, and through entrance of a plea to no contest in his act of putting Dwight's stapler in Jell-O is what made this joke was so funny. The whole act of putting something in Jell-O was funny, and this is also one of the pranks you can watch whilst you eat. And this one is also may even boost your hunger morale and give you greater appetite if you need to be hungry. This is one of them. Always pranks to watch while you eat. Stapler and Jell-O. That's another one. But anyway, number 4, this one was another one. This combined the stapler and the desk, and just this one was so maniacal. It was a mania of all sorts. It was a meat mania. It was the meatballs prank. The meatball prank was so funny. It was, this one was one of those ones that it was obvious pranks, but they get more expensive as they happen. This one got more and more expensive. It was more expensive than the Jell-O. This one, the meatball prank, was pretty expensive. And Jim really went all out pranking Dwight with the meatballs. Not only did he meatball his desk, he meatballed the drawers of his desk because it was a desk with drawers. And he also meatballed his stapler, and just everything was in meatballs. And it was pretty funny. It was a pretty high food bill, and probably got a mad butcher in the process. And I don't know if he had a debt to the butcher to pay back, but that one is actually one of the food pranks that lives rent free in my mind. But anyway, I don't know if it lives rent free in my mind or if I had to pay around on that one. That one's debatable. But number 3 is a desk prank. Any desk prank could have been one of them, but this desk prank was one of the Christmas holiday episodes. This one was pretty funny. Jim said he had a 5-minute, he was able to make a desk and a chair, and he went further than just the typical desk and stapler combo. He made a whole entire deal of both the desk and the chair being made out of Christmas wrapping paper, and this is another one that got more expensive as it went along, is what this one was. This one was probably one of the more expensive ones. I don't know. I would look up office pranks, but they get more expensive to see what kind of economics went into it and exactly how much money was spent in each prank. But the Christmas wrapping paper was pretty funny. The Christmas wrapping paper desk, and Dwight got all, what, does this take you 5 hours to make it? No. I mean, not 5 hours, but he said, what, does this take you 3 hours to make? No, 5 minutes. I'm a black belt gift wrapper. They don't hand out black belts for things that are stupid. And then he put a briefcase on it, and it fell apart like a cards in a house of cards. The chair fell apart as he tried to sit in it, and everything was made out of Christmas wrapping paper. The desk, the chair, and himself all fell apart like cards in a house of cards. And just the whole joke was that he made it out of Christmas wrapping paper, and he's done many other desk pranks. I could have made an honorable mention to any of the other desk pranks in advance prior to doing to prank 5, which was a stapler and Jell-O, and I could also, and already I did prank 4, which was the meatball prank, and number 3, the Christmas wrapping paper. Then number 2 is the convincing pranks. Jim tried to convince Dwight of something happening, something occurring, something going on. He tried to convince him of one thing that was happening. And especially when it comes to the days of the week, like convincing Dwight a Thursday was a Friday was pretty funny. And really, I could have picked any joke out of the performance review, because there were multiple jokes in the performance review, because sometimes one joke happens and the jokes are stacked up so well. They are stacked really great like cards in a house of cards. There's one joke at the bottom, there's another joke at the top. I mean, there's a whole joke pyramid being built sometimes in each office episode, and the performance review had a joke pyramid being built. But there was one other joke. I probably would add it, or maybe even also at the same time felt like doing 5 honorable mentions before I mention my number 1 joke. I might do that in another one, but anyway, I just felt like going ahead and just, after I do this one, I'm going to go ahead, say what my number 1 joke was, and explain why it is my number one and why I like it. But anyway, the Jim convincing Dwight pranks are pretty funny because he tries to he has the charisma and the personality to sell Dwight on a lie, and he does it, and Dwight falls for it. He falls for the very trap that Jim sets him up into. And the whole Friday trap on a Thursday was pretty funny as Jim tried to convince Dwight Thursday was a Friday for the performance review, and he caused him to be late and prompting a tardy on Dwight's behalf, and Jim saying he did not know where Dwight was, and Dwight showed up late after getting sold on the day of the week lie. It was funny. And now that is pretty funny, and that was one of the best ones. Then again, I could have picked out anything from any of the Halloween episodes or the performance review episode itself. But now on to the piece de resistance, which I'd look into the French origins of that. But anyway, the piece resistance is the number one prank. This one was pretty funny. I mostly have known it for the whole punchline of the joke, but I've looked back on it, tried to look at the detail, look at the build-up, look at everything up to the joke. And the detail of the joke is every little thing you say or do that gives the joke more pizzazz, more character, more morale, more everything. The detail is taking every little thing to give the joke an extra pop. And this one, I've looked back on the details of it, and what happened was that Dwight was taking up a volunteer law enforcement job as a volunteer deputy to law enforcement, and said he was a volunteer sheriff's deputy, and he wigged out about the butt of a joint in a parking lot and said, "A marijuana joint has been spotted in the parking lot. This is dangerous." And Jim was like, anything more dangerous than drugs is Dwight finding them than using them. And then out of nowhere, Dwight was interviewing everyone, and then he tried to interview Jim, and he conducted the interview. But then again, there was one joke. I'm not so sure exactly if it was a joke or not, or really any part of it, but it was he tried to convince him that he conducted an interview, and on top of it all, he was also convincing Dwight he had smoked a joint, and said, "You just smoked marijuana. How do you know it wasn't you? How would you know? How would you know it wasn't you? Maybe it was you and you just don't remember, because marijuana is a memory loss drug. So how would you know?" And he was like, "Knock it off, Jim. Knock it off. No, you said I'd be conducting an interview when I walked in here, and then now exactly how much pot did you smoke?" And that is one joke in my mind that lives rent-free in my mind and in my head, rent-free. Now exactly how much pot did you smoke? That one is one of the funniest jokes of all time. I don't know if it is the number one funniest joke of all time or necessarily my number one favorite of all time, but that is one of the funniest ones ever. I absolutely love the whole, "No, you said I'd be conducting an interview when I walked in here, and now exactly how much pot did you smoke?" And and the jokes prior to it with the whole marijuana is a memory loss drug. How would you know if it erased your memory? Maybe it was you and you just don't remember. Marijuana is a memory loss drug. And then knock it off, and then right after, Dwight should have saw the look on his face, like, "What?" He was like, "What? Did I smoke pot?" And then because Jim, and I do like to think he probably smoked pot. He smoked pot the whole time. He did not know or think that he smoked pot. And afterwards, he just acted like he didn't. And then out of nowhere, Jim tries to convince him he smoked pot, and said, the whole thing about, "Look, you walked in here, you said I'd conduct the interview, and now exactly how much pot were you smoking?" But I always remember it as the whole, "Now exactly how much pot did you smoke?" But anyway, I try to look at every detail before that punchline of the joke, because there are many jokes I've only remembered the punchline, like the one Larry the Cable Guy joke, that "like a set of rims at a Puff Daddy concert." That one, I gotta figure out that joke. But the one joke with Jim going, now exactly how much pot did you smoke at Jim? And Dwight, not Jim, but anyway, Jim convincing Dwight he smoked pot is my number one joke. And also, at the same time, if your office jokes didn't make it, I will make another video to make up for not telling those jokes or explaining those jokes. Also, comment, then again, like I said prior, comment down below your favorite office jokes, and I'll back at you with another. Wolfman Grim Reaper, same wolf name and channel. Wolfman out of here in 3, 2, 1, go.